Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Connected Conversations. I'm your host, Sebastian. I'm super happy you're tuning in again. Last episode, we talked about how technology shapes communication and identity online. And today, we're going to go deeper into something we all experience every day, even without noticing. It's artificial intelligence versus humanization. Basically, we're asking, can AI really understand us, or is it just pretending? To help me unpack this topic, I invited my good friend Omar, who studies psychology and digital behavior. He's actually been studying abroad, so it's a rare opportunity that I can actually sit down and talk these topics with him. So I really do appreciate his time here. He's been researching how AI tools like chatbots and learning apps affect empathy online. So thank you for joining us, Omar.
Yeah, of course. And hey, Sebas, thank you so much for having me. Honestly, I love this topic. I love talking about it. So this is a great opportunity to just essentially let it all out. But yeah, AI is everywhere now, and it really feels like it's never gonna leave. And sometimes I also feel like it knows us maybe a little too well, but also not at all at the same time.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
I get it. And going back to something you said, this is great space. Connecting conversations is a great space to let it all out, to talk about these topics that are related to this social era, digital era that we're living in. But yeah, so we're going to explore how AI changes the way people connect emotionally in digital spaces. So let's start how AI affects empathy. And I'm going to quote here. Biero and Patrea 2025 explain that AI systems like chatbots and grading programs read or tone words and behavior, but they don't actually feel anything. They just predict what kind of response sounds right. And I really like this explanation or this concept because I think it's something that all of us can relate. Like, for example, one time when I don't want to say I crashed my car, but I got a little bump with my car. I was venting to AI. I was like, bro, I'm really sad this happened. And of course, it read my tone and it gave me actually empathetic responses. It gave me, some tips and it sounded a lot empathetic. And I know it's just, pretending it's an AI chatbot, but it really did help me, feel a lot better.
Yeah. So a little bit more about that. So the industry actually calls that statistical empathy. So the system essentially is trained to tell you that. So it's going to tell you, oh, I'm really sorry you feel that way. But it's not sorry at all. It just tells you what you want to hear sometimes because it learned that phrase and it learned to say that from the database and the data pattern that it analyzed over and over again.
Yeah, no, again, I know it was just an AI generated response. I know it didn't actually feel sorry that I bumped, not crashed, my car. But I still appreciated it, I still appreciated the attempt or the support they gave me.
Exactly. And I'm also going to quote here. So Tai in 2020 also mentions that when AI is used to reach a lot of people, like automatic feedback or counseling bots, it actually loses that personal and cultural touch. It's efficient, but it can feel cold at times.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, going back to that, it did help me feel better, so it was efficient, but at the same time, it's kind of sad that an AI chatbot was the one who lifted me up. But on the flip side, AI can be super helpful. Again, quoting Plumter 2024, they found out that AI can quickly detect emotional signals, like spotting when a student might be struggling or when an online comment sounds distressed. This is basically the entire point of the story I was telling. It spotted that I was feeling stressed out because of this, and it helped me, get through this situation. It wasn't really a tough situation, but it was still nice knowing that I had a support of something in this case.
Yeah, and that kind of support can actually help us humans on the other side of the chatbot. Just save a little bit of time and actually focus on what really can help us and get that actual real emotional support that some of us might need a little bit more time for, essentially.
Yeah, no, but there's a trade-off, and still quoting Kawasaki 2025 says AI should be designed to empower people, not replace them, and it's supposed to be helping hand, not the main act. Again, I also like the definition because I feel like us as students, every time we listen about AI, they always tell us that it should be a tool to help us, not do the whole thing. Like if we're working on an assignment, it can be really good at gathering information and analyzing, but it should not be the one doing everything, No. I know not everyone does that or not everyone uses AI in that way, but that's an intended way of using it as a tool. So I really have to agree with this definition.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When AI, let's hope not, but if it eventually replaces human contact completely, that empathy and that emotional connection that humans have face to face, or even just talking to a person online, like through a video call or a phone call, that is something that AI can't ever replicate, and it's going to start fading if humans rely on AI completely.
Yeah, let's hope we don't get to that part, but it's still an interesting topic that needs to be mentioned.
Yeah.
So, and then just for some context, in class, in our social skills in a digital era class, we talk about a few theories that really connect here. One of them being the critical datification. Basically how AI turns human actions and emotions into numbers or categories. This can be seen everywhere, even without AI. For example, like in Instagram, how it turns out engagement into just likes, shares, and saves.
Yeah, especially when apps track things like sentiment scores, basically just positive, neutral, or even negative reactions. It's really weird to think that human emotion is just reduced to like a few data points that companies may use to basically train their AI chatbot.
Yeah, no, totally. And it may help analyze key points or big trends, but we're losing the humanity part, missing the whole context and story behind what is really going on, you know?
Yeah, and that's where I think it's really important to consider human interpretation, because AI might give signals to people using it, but it really takes a human to add that needed context and to add that human emotion that we can comprehend clearly and that AI can't really connect to because it's only trained like on given data. So a machine can't really know if someone's joking per se, or when they're being sarcastic, or even using slang from different cultures, since there's just so many. And if the AI isn't trained to know how to use that data, it basically can't give it to us in a positive way and basically give us the entire picture.
Right, no, and then there's where hybrid participation comes in, you know? The idea that we live both online and offline, like when you're in class using an AI writing tool, but still talking to a classmate in person. And again, this doesn't just focus on AI. Online and offline participation can go so much beyond that. Just a basic like having online friends, but for example, Omar is my in-person friend. I met him in person, but now that he's studying abroad, I talk to him offline. You know, it's always a great tool for hybrid participation. You know, having all these resources that help us feel connected. We just need to know how to use them properly and for the right things.
Yeah, that's very true. Especially now with the digital age, I think empathy has now been able to adapt to both digital and physical forms of communication. But overall, the challenge still is keeping our humanity while using this freshly and like always advancing technology.
All right, and now I want to move on to a little bit of an interactive segment. So we're going to play a little game. We're going to call it Human or AI. I'll just be reading two short messages, and you tell me which one was written by a person or which one by a bot. You ready?
Yeah, of course. Ready.
Okay, so first one, you're doing great today. Keep believing yourself. And the second one, sometimes silence is more than words. Which one do you think is human and which one do you think is AI?
I think the first one sounds a little bit too like AI. It sounds like something the AI would tell me because I want to hear that. And the second one does feel a little bit more human because there is a little bit more depth to that. There's also that cultural context. I know in some cultures it's a very common saying. So I do think the first one is AI.
You got it. The first one was AI. You know, it's positive but kind of robotic. And the second one was written by an actual student, by one of our script writers. So shout out to them. But yeah, you're doing great today. Keep believing in yourself. I feel like ChatGPT has told me that a couple times. Yeah. So it does feel like AI generated.
Yeah, that's honestly insane because if I'm just a normal person, I don't really investigate and like research these things. I think that AI message could be a little bit comforting and could help me out in the moment.
True. It shows how people can project real emotions onto AI. We want to feel understood, even by a machine. And to an extent, I think AI or ChatGPT, which is the one I use a lot, it can really help us, or it can really mimic human patterns sometimes. Like, I know my ChatGPT uses words or slang that I would also say. Like, I say, like, you know, a lot. So I'll be saying, like, oh, I want to do this, you know? And sometimes my AI or my ChatGPT will respond with, oh, yeah, you know? So, like, it's like mimicking, you know?
Yeah, I understand that. And that also ties into a little bit of what the industry calls perceived empathy. Yeah. Basically, when people create this like connection and we imagine that AI actually cares to the responses that it's giving us, we get a little bit connected to it and we feel that we feel the empathy that it's giving to us essentially. But in reality, there's no actual feeling behind it because it's just spouting out whatever data it's trained on. So it's taking what people have actually commonly said like during those situations and just giving it to us in a really watered down and like simple level 1 state essentially.
Yeah, it's only empathy on the surface, but there's not a real thing behind it.
Yeah.
It might make you feel better, but it's just surface level. But now we want to go deeper into a topic. I've been talking about how I use ChatGPT personally, but we want to talk about ChatGPT in education because I think a lot of the viewers listening to this can relate to that.
Oh yeah, I think it's essentially a second brain for a lot of students now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna quote again, Daniel, 2025, found that it's helping students brainstorm, summarize, and even understand topics faster. It's amazing for accessibility, especially for people who struggle with writing or language barriers. And I can, again, totally agree with this. When I'm stuck with a topic and I need a new set of ideas or takes, I can always count on AI to help me brainstorm or research a topic so I can get a better understanding of it, and then I can go into a deeper, more individual analysis.
Yeah, and that's very true. I've done that as well many times.
Yeah,
but the big downside to that is that a lot of students, I would say, use AI to entirely write their essays. There's no actual like comprehension, and there's no, well, essentially thought behind that. There's even like AI like humanizer tools that make it seem like a human wrote it. And I cannot imagine being a teacher and having to grade what I think is like a human written text and then the AI written text, because it's all just so similar now.
Yeah, now it's totally blurring the line between letting AI learn learn from us. You know, like letting with AI learning and just like it doing everything. And it goes against with what we were saying, that it should be used as a tool, not as the actual thing doing it for us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a great tool like for support, but it shouldn't be what we entirely depend on, because we lose that human creativity and the connection.
Yeah, that's the empathy gap again that we're talking. It gives fast answers, or it's very efficient, but it can't replace the humanization or the engagement, a real connection with a teacher, for example, would give.
Yeah, and I think that's why balance matters most of the time, especially when talking about AI, because we can use AI to generate those initial ideas, but it's that human component that essentially guides the idea, puts in the emotion, and then with our critical thinking, we can further develop it to something new and original.
Yeah, that's a very good take. I like that. But now, just to start summarizing things a little bit, what do you think is the biggest risk of letting AI handle empathy?
I think the biggest risk is forgetting that empathy is a lot more than words. There's a lot to human connection, essentially. And if we start to rely a little bit too much on AI, we might lose the habit of truly listening and caring to one another.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, I guess the biggest takeaway will be that AI can help amplify empathy, but only when humans stay in charge. It's like teamwork between tech and emotion, you know?
Yeah, totally. We could use AI to make our lives easier, but we have to keep it human, essentially, to make sure that technology serves the people and not the other way around.
Yeah, all right then. That's gonna wrap for today's episode for Connected Conversations. Omar, again, thank you so much for hanging out with us and giving your thoughts. It was really good.
Yeah, of course. It's always been a pleasure. You know me. I love talking about this topic, and I hope that thanks to this podcast, people will think a little bit deeper as to how they talk with an AI robot.
Yeah, same here. And for everyone listening, what do you think? Can AI ever truly feel empathy, or is it just copying us? Leave your thoughts in the comments, share your thoughts down below, share this episode. Don't forget to follow Connected Conversations for more discussion like this. Again, this was kind of like a special episode. We should be going back to our regular schedule and office in the next episodes. It was just that we got an amazing opportunity to listen from the perspective of someone that knows all about this topic, so we're not going to let that pass. But we should be going back to the schedule next time. So thanks for listening, and remember, stay connected and stay human.